I used to write, I used to write neighborhood graffiti. We didn't call it graffiti, we call it plaqueazos, You know what I'm saying? Neighborhood stuff. And then when the 80s came around and I opened the youth center, the Radiotron, I started noticing kids were coming in, but they were adding like colors and like kind of block letters and bubble letters and wild style. I remember seeing the plaqueazos, but I also remember seeing like the hippie art, which was like kind of psychedelic, and I don't know if those two things merged, but what influenced you to write?
For me, the same thing, kind of like you said. I remember coming up on seeing my uncle and the older guys, like you said, the plaqueazos, the big block letters, putting up neighborhoods. As a kid, always being attracted to that. But the crazy part is not only being attracted to the plaqueazos or the gang graffiti at the time of the growing up in the 70s, going into the 80s, but also the muralism, right? The Chicano muralism, the civil rights muralism. I think even after the colonization process of taking away that art from us and putting us into these urban settings, right? We're becoming these urban natives. I think that was probably the most shocking thing for the system, because somehow we still figure out how to resurrect that expression. It came through aerosol, it came through the art, but it still resurrected that cultural piece of being drawn to wanting to tell your story on the wall. We're back in the indigenous days, we're telling the stories of our ancestors and we're telling the stories of our lineage. Now, in the hood, it was a story of when somebody died because it said rest in peace. Somebody was at war because they were crossing each other out. But in the 80s, when I came in, the hip hop culture coming in and the understanding of the hip hop culture was beautiful because it allowed us to express ourselves in that way, but not be tied to the gang culture. But I think what drove us to Radiotron at the time was my close friend since elementary school, my friend Jack. Because at that time, I was sharing with someone earlier too, because at that time, we were minors, so we couldn't go in and buy the spray paint. So I'll be honest, we were jacking the spray paint. We were stealing it to go get up. And then he came and said, hey, bro, there's a spot on the west side where I live, because he had to move me by MacArthur Park. He goes, I got this spot over there. There's a guy, he gives you the paint. You go there, he'll give you the paint. You could paint. And I was like, you serious? This was real. In those four walls, it was a beautiful escape from our reality. And it gave an identity to a group of kids, I feel, that really felt like we were overseen or didn't exist.
A Radiotron drew young people from different gangs. So, like, for example, K2S, right? You had one guy from 18th Street, one guy from Drifters, one guy from Rockwood. So in that space of Radiotron, they were working together as a collective. And a lot of kids were actually leaving gangs and joining breakdance crews. So that was a form of battling. I don't know if you ever went into the tag room at Radiotron. Like on the second floor, I gave the graffiti writers a room and they were allowed to tag it. But there were two rules. One, no crossing anybody out, and no gang writing, right?
It's crazy to listen to right now too, because it just takes me back to a lot of memories that I don't know if folks ever appreciate, even just listening to this conversation right now, or them being able to, or capturing this conversation right now. But this was like all the time for folks that didn't know. And I remember being quiet, but all the time you dropping jewels on us, dropping knowledge on us like that, and then it just really sucks sometimes. It's beautiful, and then it's sometimes even sad, because I think about the system or the city not really realizing the value, right, of what was going on there. Like a youth being able to go there and express there. But when they shut it down, like you said, when we was there, everybody was cool, and then shut it down, everybody got into hoods. And some of the best graffiti artists out there, there's a few that are still representing, but it's sad that they had to get shot. So they had to go through the lifestyle, they had to get shot. And now that I'm older, I feel, which at the time I didn't understand, but now I feel exactly You know, I've seen so much death, especially with the job I do, and I've seen so much pain that I could eternally feel it building in me now, you know. But and again, the system didn't realize the value in peace and justice. Eventually gets shut down, and we could keep going down and down the line of not seeing the value in the arts, not seeing the value in the youth, not seeing the value of investing in young people, not seeing the value of creating centers for young people. And so, you know, now I could look back, and yes, there was periods where there was pauses in some of our negative activity, and thankfully maybe I'm one of the few that was able to turn it around to a positive. But there would have been so many more if the seed was allowed to be nurtured, to be overseen, the gardener, right? Seeing you as the gardener of the Tacani, I think being able to invest more and having a center to go to, maybe some of the people that I talked about that got shot or got killed or got incarcerated, maybe that wouldn't happen. I don't know. We'll never know. But we do know that the fact that those centers at some point ceased to exist, we knew the outcome, and that's what I talked about right now, unfortunately, and I lost a lot of good comrades. You know what I'm saying?
So how'd you get into doing intervention work? You know?
I always, even from Quito Sol, I would always invest in the community. I always believed in the upliftment of the community. I always wanted to see the violence stop, and I try to play my role in reducing or stopping the violence. And it was weird because I remember walking off at the job I had at the time, and because I was depressed, didn't know what I did, but I just walked off the job, and I got this phone call for somebody saying that we got this job for you, because they remember hearing or seeing me doing some of the work in the community, and they said, we got a job for you to do security. And I go, well, I'm a big dude, I've done security before, I could do it, but it was for a high-risk school. When I got there, they said it's actually for a teacher's aide. And I go, teacher's aide? I didn't really picture myself doing that. I thought it was a security job. But once I went into school, I kind of I get it. It wasn't your typical school, right? But it was probably the best time for something like that to happen to me, because as I was investing in those young people, they were actually helping me heal. Rather than throwing these artists and these juveniles into the halls, into the camps, into the juvenile system and the prison system, I know writers like Brother Sight who did time in state prison, and his greatest crime was bombing, graffiti art. Then he wasn't a gang member, he didn't kill, he didn't rob, he didn't slang dope. All he did was wanted to write on walls, and he went to state prison. And now, being an interventionist, having to come back in a culture, like my brother Vio says, graffiti saved my life. And it did, it saved my life too. Graffiti saved our life. And it sucks now to come back and see the next generation that graffiti might actually be the reason that takes your life. That's really sucks, man. But I'm hoping that through intervention and through knowledge and through sharing, that we could create that avenue and that opportunity for the young people who are drawn to this culture to have that option of getting out of the violence and staying out of the violence, and hopefully maybe create careers.
So when I've gone to City Hall, like to advocate for art apprenticeships for the graffiti writers, and I've been literally like grabbed and taken into a room and yelled at and told, "You're advocating vandalism." And I'm like, no, because I give them permission. I don't tell them to go and write on a mural or to go write on a wall. I give them a wall. I give them a room. I give them a space to create. So that's what I'm looking forward to doing and working with you on creating that proposal where we hire young people to restore and learn about the history of muralism, and also to create new works of art, so that we can once again regain the title of mural capital of the world here in Los Angeles.